Almost everything you have been told about cancer prevention after the age of 50 is either incomplete, oversimplified, or flat out wrong. Not because the science doesn't exist. It does, in extraordinary detail. But because the most powerful evidence, the research that could genuinely change the outcome for millions of adults, has never been translated into plain, usable language for the people who need it most. My name is Dr. Helson. I have spent 27 years as an oncologist and cancer prevention researcher. And in that time, I have watched patients follow conventional wisdom, do everything they were told, and still end up in my office with a diagnosis that, according to the research I'm about to share with you, may have been preventable. That ends today. What I'm going to walk you through are the 5 most powerful cancer prevention habits available to adults over 50. But I'm not just going to tell you what they are. I'm going to show you the wrong belief most people carry into each one, destroy it with the actual science, and then hand you something you can use before you go to sleep tonight. Before we go further, drop your age in the comments right now. Just your age, or a note about your biggest health concern after 50. I read every single one. Knowing who is watching helps me create content that actually serves you. Stay with me for all 5. They build on each other. And the final one, habit number 1, is the habit I would personally choose above all others if I could give every patient over 50 on this planet just one tool. Don't skip ahead. The myth about food is this: I just need to eat less junk and I'll be fine. Here is why that belief, while not entirely wrong, is dangerously incomplete, and why the specific type of food damage matters far more than most people realize. Every single cell in your body is constantly dividing, replicating, and replacing itself. In a healthy body, a process called DNA mismatch repair acts like a biological proofreader. It catches errors in your genetic code before they become mutations, and before mutations become tumors. Here is the critical problem that almost no one over 50 has been told clearly. After age 50, the efficiency of your DNA repair enzymes naturally declines by roughly 30 to 40%. Your body becomes a less reliable proofreader at precisely the moment when decades of accumulated cellular wear have produced the most errors to catch. Now here's where most people's understanding falls short. Ultra-processed foods, packaged snacks, fast food, processed deli meats, sugar-sweetened beverages do not just make you gain weight. They flood your cells with compounds called advanced glycation end products, or AGEs, which are inflammatory molecules that directly cripple those DNA repair enzymes. A 2023 study from Imperial College London, published in the European Journal of Nutrition, followed 197,000 adults and found that those with the highest ultra-processed food consumption had a 32% higher risk of colorectal cancer and a 19% higher risk of breast cancer, compared to people eating primarily whole foods. That same year, researchers at the National Cancer Institute confirmed that ultra-processed food consumption was independently linked to a 28% increase in overall cancer mortality, even after controlling for obesity, smoking, and physical activity. Read that again. The food itself, not the weight it causes, is the problem. I treated a patient I'll call Sandra, 58 years old, an administrator from the Bay Area, who came to see me after her sister was diagnosed with colon cancer. Sandra's diet was what she considered perfectly normal: cereal in the morning, a deli sandwich at lunch, packaged crackers, and processed cheese as a snack. Her inflammatory markers were significantly elevated. Over 12 months, Sandra replaced her ultra-processed staples with whole food equivalents: oats, legumes, vegetables, olive oil, without any other change. Her C-reactive protein levels dropped by 44%. Her IL-6 normalized completely. Her follow-up colonoscopy showed a reversal of the low-grade mucosal inflammation her gastroenterologist had flagged previously. Starting today, this means one concrete shift per meal. Morning cereal becomes oatmeal with berries. The packaged snack bar becomes an apple and a handful of walnuts. The processed deli meat becomes grilled chicken or a hard-boiled egg. Not deprivation, cellular protection. And when you layer this with the next habit I'll explain, your systemic inflammation drops in a way that neither habit achieves alone. But first, I need to correct another myth. one that may be costing you the single most powerful internal defense system your body has. The myth about sleep is this: sleep is just about feeling rested. I function fine on 5 or 6 hours. This belief is not just wrong. In the context of cancer biology, it is one of the most dangerous misconceptions I encounter in clinical practice. When I think about sleep as an oncologist, I think about something called immunosurveillance, one of the most remarkable cancer-fighting systems your body possesses. Your immune system contains specialized cells called natural killer cells, or NK cells, whose function is to patrol your bloodstream and tissues, identify early-stage cancer cells, and destroy them before they can establish a foothold. They're your body's internal security force. Here is what almost no one has explained properly. NK cell activity is almost entirely regulated by your sleep cycles, specifically by the deep slow-wave sleep stages that dominate the early part of your night, stages 3 and 4 of non-REM sleep. When your body releases a cascade of cytokines that directly amplify NK cell production and activation. After age 60, the proportion of slow-wave sleep your body naturally generates drops by approximately 50%, meaning your cancer surveillance system is already running at half capacity, and chronic short sleep makes it worse. A 2019 study from the University of Chicago, published in the Journal of Experimental Medicine, showed that just 1 week of sleeping fewer than 6 hours per night reduced natural killer cell activity by 70% in healthy adults. 70%. A 2021 analysis from the International Agency for Research on Cancer, drawing on data from 27 studies and over 2 million participants, found that chronic short sleep, fewer than 6 hours, was associated with a 40% increased risk of breast cancer, a 36% increased risk of prostate cancer, and a 55% increased risk of colorectal cancer in adults over 55. I had a patient named Robert, 63 years old, a retired engineer who genuinely believed he functioned well on 5 to 6 hours. He didn't smoke. He wasn't overweight. He exercised regularly, but his sleep was fractured and short. He came to me following a precancerous polyp finding. We implemented a structured sleep protocol, consistent 10:30 p.m. bedtime, complete device darkness after 9 p.m., bedroom temperature of 67 degrees Fahrenheit, and magnesium glycinate to support slow-wave depth. Within 8 weeks, his sleep had extended to 7.5 hours. His deep sleep stages doubled. His NK cell count, measured through follow-up blood work, increased by 38%. The most actionable starting point is what sleep researchers call anchor sleep. Commit to the same wake time every single morning, including weekends. Your wake time anchors your circadian rhythm far more powerfully than your bedtime does. Set that alarm. Hold it. Even 1 week of consistent wake timing measurably improves sleep architecture in adults over 50. Now, if these first 2 habits have surprised you, what comes next will challenge something you think you already understand. The myth about movement is this: I'm too old, too stiff, or too busy for the kind of exercise that makes a difference. This belief is built on a fundamental misunderstanding of what movement-related cancer prevention actually is. Because the science is not about the gym. It is about a molecule. At the heart of this habit is a hormone called insulin-like growth factor 1, or IGF-1. In youth, IGF-1 drives healthy development. After 50, chronically elevated IGF-1 levels, driven directly by sedentary behavior, act as fertilizer for cancer cells, accelerating their proliferation. Regular moderate movement is one of the only lifestyle interventions proven to lower baseline IGF-1 levels while simultaneously upregulating a tumor-suppressing protein called p53, which functions as your cell's most powerful internal stop signal against malignant growth. A 2020 study from the American Cancer Society, published in the Journal of Clinical Oncology, tracked 186,000 adults over 10 years and found that those engaging in at least 150 minutes of moderate movement per week had a 42% lower risk of colon cancer, a 38% lower risk of breast cancer recurrence, and a 26% lower risk of all-cause cancer mortality. A A 2022 companion study from the University of Queensland, published in The Lancet, found that simply breaking up prolonged sitting with 5-minute walks every hour reduced blood markers of tumor-promoting inflammation by 27%, without any structured exercise at all. My patient Eleanor was 71 years old when she came to me, 2 years after completing treatment for stage 1 breast cancer and terrified of recurrence. She had arthritis. Running was not an option. Neither was the gym. We built her a protocol around what she could do: 20 minutes of brisk walking after breakfast, standing while watching television in the evenings, 5-minute stretch and walk breaks during her afternoon reading. At her 12-month follow-up, her IGF-1 had dropped by 23%. Her oncologist noted significantly improved NK cell counts, and she described her energy and mental clarity as completely transformed. Start with a 20-minute walk after your largest meal of the day. Research from Stanford, published in 2021, confirms that post-meal walking specifically suppresses blood sugar spikes that independently fuel cancer cell metabolism by up to 33%. No gym required. No equipment. Just your front door and a commitment. Now I want to pause and make a direct request. If what you're hearing today is valuable, please subscribe, hit the like button, and share this video with one person over 50 who deserves to know this. This content takes months of research to produce. Your support makes it possible to keep it free. The myth about stress is this: stress is uncomfortable, but it doesn't cause cancer. That's just a saying. I understand why people believe this. It sounds unscientific, vague, emotional. So let me give you the precise biological mechanism, because once you see it, you will never dismiss this habit again. The molecule is cortisol, your primary stress hormone. Short-term cortisol release is healthy. It is your body's emergency response system. But when cortisol is chronically elevated, as it is in people experiencing persistent stress, anxiety, grief, loneliness, or unresolved trauma, it triggers a cascade of consequences that are deeply and specifically relevant to cancer. Chronic cortisol suppresses the expression of BRCA1 and BRCA2, your two most critical DNA damage repair genes. It also upregulates an inflammatory pathway called NF-κB, which directly promotes tumor cell survival and suppresses apoptosis, the natural cellular self-destruction process that eliminates damaged or malignant cells. In plain language, chronic stress tells your body to keep damaged cells alive instead of eliminating them. That is the biological foundation of cancer development. A 2022 study from Ohio State University's Comprehensive Cancer Center, published in Nature Immunology, found that chronic psychological stress reduced tumor-infiltrating lymphocyte activity, the immune cells that attack cancer, by 48% in adults over 60. A 2023 meta-analysis from the Karolinska Institute, drawing on nearly 500,000 participants across 16 studies, found that adults with clinically elevated chronic stress markers had a 43% higher risk of hematological cancers, including leukemia and lymphoma, and a 31% higher risk of lung cancer. My patient David was 66 years old, a recently retired executive who described himself as finally relaxing. His blood work told a different story. His cortisol rhythm was completely inverted, low in the morning when it should peak, elevated at night when it should be near zero. He had developed what researchers call allostatic load, a state of chronic biological stress imprinting even when the person no longer feels subjectively stressed. His BRCA1 expression was measurably suppressed. We implemented a structured daily protocol: 12 minutes of slow diaphragmatic breathing each morning, a 15-minute evening walk without his phone, and regular social engagement. A weekly dinner with friends. At 6 months, his cortisol rhythm had normalized. His NF-κB markers had dropped by 31%. His oncology team noted improved lymphocyte counts across the board. A 2021 study from Carnegie Mellon University established the minimum effective dose clearly. Just 12 minutes of daily mindful breathing, practiced consistently for 8 weeks, reduced salivary cortisol levels by 26% and measurably improved NK cell counts in adults over 55. No therapist, No retreat. No app subscription. 12 minutes. A quiet chair. In through your nose for 4 counts. Hold for 7. Out through your mouth for 8. That is your starting point today. Everything we have covered, the food, the sleep, the movement, the stress regulation, is building towards something. Because habit number 1 is the intervention that ties every mechanism we have discussed into a single unified biological protocol. And the research behind it is so compelling that I will say this plainly. It is the single habit I would choose above all others for every patient over 50 on this planet. The myth about fasting is this. Intermittent fasting is a weight loss trend. It has nothing to do with cancer. This is the most consequential misunderstanding on this entire list. Because what I am about to describe is not a diet. It is a biological protocol with documented anti-tumor mechanisms confirmed in human clinical trials. And it is completely free. The mechanism is a cellular process called autophagy, from the Greek meaning self-eating. When your body enters a fasted state, typically 13 to 16 hours after your last meal, it activates a process by which your cells begin to identify, dismantle, and recycle damaged cellular components, including premalignant cells, misfolded proteins, and defective mitochondria. Think of it as your body running a deep internal diagnostic and cleanup cycle. In healthy younger adults, this cycle runs reasonably well. After age 50, autophagy efficiency declines by an estimated 40 to 50%, largely because modern eating patterns, with constant food available from early morning to late at night, mean most adults never enter the fasted state long enough to trigger meaningful autophagic activity. When damaged cells are not cleaned up, they accumulate. Accumulated cellular damage is the biological substrate of cancer. A 2019 study from the University of Southern California, published in Cell Metabolism, found that adults who restricted their eating to a consistent 10-hour window each day for 12 weeks showed a 34% reduction in IGF-1, a 29% reduction in CRP inflammatory markers, and a measurable upregulation of autophagy activity, compared to controls eating across 15 or more hours. A landmark 2022 clinical trial from the University of Alabama at Birmingham, published in the New England Journal of Medicine, followed 218 adults aged 55 to 70 and found that those practicing a consistent 14-10 eating window showed a 37% reduction in markers of oxidative DNA damage and a 41% improvement in tumor suppressor gene expression, with no caloric restriction required. Let me tell you about Michael, 61 years old, a school teacher who came to me 5 years ago with a history of precancerous colonic polyps, a family history of pancreatic cancer, and a fasting glucose hovering at the high end of pre-diabetic range. He was not overweight. His diet was what most people would call reasonable. But his eating window was 16 hours long. Coffee with cream at 6 a.m., a late snack at 10 p.m. His autophagy markers were among the lowest I had measured for a non-obese patient his age. We implemented a simple 14-10 protocol. First meal at 8 a.m. Last bite of food by 6 p.m. water and black coffee freely throughout the fasting window. Within 90 days, his fasting glucose had dropped from 108 to 91. Within 12 months, his follow-up colonoscopy showed complete resolution of the low-grade dysplasia that had been present in his previous 2 scopes, a finding his gastroenterologist described as unusual and remarkable. His autophagy biomarkers had increased by 53%. You do not need to skip meals. You do not need to count calories. You need to establish a consistent eating window of 10 to 12 hours and then protect it. If your first cup of coffee with cream is at 7 a.m., your kitchen closes at 7 p.m. If breakfast is at 8 a.m., dinner ends by 6 p.m. Water, plain black coffee, and unsweetened tea are freely permitted outside the window. Your body does the rest. And here is the master-level insight that ties all 5 habits together. Time-restricted eating amplifies every mechanism we have discussed. It lowers IGF-1, the same pathway targeted by movement. It reduces cortisol rhythm disruption, supporting the stress regulation we covered. It increases the depth and efficiency of slow-wave sleep. It reduces systemic inflammation even when your diet is not perfect. This is why I call it the master lever. Pull it, and everything else in this video becomes more powerful. Let me bring this home clearly, because what we have covered today is not a collection of separate tips. It is an integrated biological strategy, and every piece matters. Removing ultra-processed foods eliminates one of the primary suppressors of your DNA repair machinery, the cellular proofreading system that naturally declines by 30 to 40% after age 50. Protecting your sleep architecture restores the natural killer cell activity that is your body's primary internal defense against early-stage cancer cells, which drops by up to 70% with chronic short sleep. Daily, purposeful movement directly lowers IGF-1, the growth hormone that fuels cancer cell proliferation, while upregulating the p53 tumor suppressor that tells malignant cells to stop. Strategic stress regulation normalizes the cortisol rhythm that suppresses your two most critical DNA repair genes and keeps damaged cells alive far longer than they should be. And daily time-restricted eating activates autophagy, the cellular cleanup system that is your body's deepest and most fundamental cancer prevention mechanism, and multiplies the power of every other habit on this list. I want to say something directly to you now, as your physician in this moment. It is never too late. The research I have shared today does not come from studies of 30-year-olds with perfect genetics. It comes from studies of people exactly like you, adults in their 50s, 60s, and 70s, who made targeted lifestyle changes and produced measurable, documented biological results. Your cells are not fixed. Your risk is not sealed. Every morning you wake up is another opportunity to shift the conditions inside your body. The myths have been destroyed. Now you know what the science actually says. The only question left is this. Which one of these 5 habits are you going to start with this week? And what is the single biggest obstacle standing between you and that first step? Tell me in the comments. I read every one. I respond to as many as I can. If this video gave you something real today, hit the like button, subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next, and share this with one person over 50 who deserves to have this information. Your future self is counting on the decision you make right now. Take care of yourself because you absolutely can.